Welcome to my Oblivion race tier list. We're going to be evaluating the different races of Oblivion for Master Mode. I'm basing this largely on how well they will enhance a build. So to begin, we have High Elf. So High Elf has a 25% weakness to all the elements, but an additional 100 starting magicka. So if you want to make a mage that has a high magic pool right out of the gate, High Elf has the highest magic pool with the downside of some weakness to magic. If you run High Elf with Apprentice, you can start the game with 300 base magicka, but you will be 100% weakness to magic stacked with 25% weakness to elements. Just do not get hit by fireballs and you'll be fine. Honestly, I do think High Elf is overpowered. The fact that you can get such high magic so early, as well as stack the base magic with other things, allows you to have essentially endgame magic as soon as you start the game. And from there, it's just a matter of power leveling all of your different skills, and then you can easily break the game and pop off. And the higher magic pool allows you to flex into other enchantments so that you don't have to really worry about getting like magicka plus 50 enchantments, so you can focus on other things. But I do think it is one of the better ones in the game right now. Next, we have Breton. So Breton is also S tier. I would say it's slightly better than High Elf. The 50% magic resist is just way too high of a stat to ignore. They have 150 base magicka, which is still really good. Of the casting races, like the races that want to use magic, High Elf and Breton have increased magic pool, whereas the other races just simply do not, unfortunately. So these are kind of like the optimal races for just like pure magic builds. Breton's better at Spellblade because it has a lower magic pool, so it kind of wants to dip into other weapons as well as casting magic. So I actually made my Breton a mage tank that uses an enchanted dagger that has chaos damage as well as debuffs and spells, and I can also cast summons if I want to, but it's not like a pure mage. So it also has heavy armor, at least for that build. Breton as a heavy armor tank, it has low HP, so you need to get its HP up, but it can be decent as well as most races on heavy armor. Next, we have Dark Elf. Dark Elf is one of my favorite races visually, also because I grew up playing Morrowind. I have a bias towards Dark Elf to some degree, but they are kind of like a generalist mage. They have a bonus to destruction, which is kind of nice. They have plus 10 destruction, so if you want to run a caster, like obviously that will help you to some degree. They do not have increased mana pool, unlike High Elf and Breton though, and their base stats are kind of suspect for magic because they have pretty low willpower and their intelligence is only 40. They're kind of like a hybrid. They're also like a general spell sword type class or type archetype. I'm going to put them in B tier. They have 75% fire resist, which is decent, but if you're getting hit with non-fire sources of magic, it just does nothing. So it's very unfortunate. The Ancestral Guardian, from what I understand, isn't really the best thing in endgame and probably dies quickly. It's also a daily power, so it's not going to be there. It's not going to be with you every fight. You're going to cast it occasionally. That's really not why you would use them anyways, but they're kind of just like a good in-between like physical and mage in terms of stats. They kind of have like an even distribution. They have like 40s and everything, 50 speed, 40 agility. Their willpower is noticeably low though. It's 30. That's lower than most other races. So I do kind of recommend against running them unless you're running like Atronach if you want to go for some kind of magical build. In that case, you can kind of leverage the fact that they already have low willpower, so their stats are just distributed into other things. But they're pretty decent overall. You could argue they're A tier. I don't really value their passive or their daily power, and I feel like their base mana pool kind of makes them weaker than the other two magical classes. Next, we have Imperial. So where does the Imperial sit on the throne? I don't think Imperial is on the throne. I think Imperial is as far off the throne as humanly possible. It's the personality race. It has the highest personality, and it has Voice of the Emperor, Charm Target 30 points for 30 seconds. This can easily be replaced with an illusion spell. It's not really that hard of an effect to get. And then it has Star of the West, Absorb Fatigue 100 on touch. And these are both once per day. Voice of the Emperor is fine, but like selling things to people is super easy in this game. The persuasion mini game is very easy to do. NPCs gain favor with you the more you trade with them. So if you just keep selling stuff to the same merchants, you will eventually get high disposition anyways. So having high personality is just literally bad stats. And their other stats, they have like plus 10 mercantile, plus 10 speechcraft, and then plus 10 heavy armor. The best thing they have is plus 10 heavy armor. A lot of their bonus skills are bad, their base stats are bad, and their abilities are bad. They don't give you anything that is going to help you out. And also their endurance for being on heavy armor is 30 or 40, depending on your background. It should be at least like 40 or 50 for like the different choices if they're trying to be a tank. They're basically like a bad tank that's good at talking trash. Next we have Nord. Nord is a heavy armor tank. It has good base starting health, it has good endurance, and it has good strength. It has two options. It has the Western and Eastern option. One gives you plus 10 to endurance, the other gives you plus 10 to willpower. So you have the option of being 50 strength, 50 endurance, or 50 strength, 40 endurance, but also 40 willpower. They do have low intelligence of 30, so casting spells with them can be difficult, but if you're only using spells to heal, then it's not as bad. They do have bonuses to Armorer, Blade, Block, Blunt, Heavy Armor, and Restoration, and they have plus 15 on Blade, Blunt, Heavy Armor, and then plus 10 on the rest of the skills that they have bonuses to. So they're pretty good at being Heavy Armor Restoration tanks that can run Blade or Blunt. They also have 50% Frost Resist. They have 2 active abilities that can be used once per day. Woad, 30% shield on self for 60 seconds, once per day, and then Nordic Frost, 50 points of frost damage on touch. Now, Nordic Frost can be decent for giving yourself essentially a free spell once per day, but Woad is really good on heavy armor for hitting armor cap in early game. Once you hit armor cap, you just stop using it, and that's fine, but it's a really good early game ability. 30% shield is a massive amount of tanking, especially if you're running like iron or steel armor in like the early game. This will get you to like 40 to potentially like 60 shield super early, which is near armor cap. And being near armor cap allows you to train, so you could like go up to a bunch of mud crabs, cast Woad, have them hit you a bunch of times. You could start maybe flexing into alteration a bit to hit armor cap, and then once you get your heavy armor high enough, then you can stop using these abilities and just tank. But I do think Nord is quite good. I'm going to put them at A tier. They're basically just like an effortless tank. Next, we have the Masters of Blunt and Heavy Armor, the Orc. So Orc is pretty interesting in that it has Resist Magic 25 on a Heavy Armor tank archetype. Its bonuses to skills are Armor 15, Block 15, Blunt 15, Heavy Armor 15, and Hand-to-Hand 10. So Orc kind of wants to use Blunt. There isn't anything wrong with Blunt. You can run Blunt weapons, they can be decent. The only problem with Blunt, though, is in endgame when you hit armor cap, assuming you're running heavy armor. The only thing Blunt is really doing is it's giving you a 1 in 5 chance to silence on hit, which still can be useful, but depending on how you are running your build, it might not really do that much. They also have the active ability that can be used once per day, Berserk, Fortify Health 20, Fortify Fatigue 200, Fortify Strength 50, Drain Agility 100, for 60 seconds. So when you hit 100 strength and you cast this, the Fortify Strength 50, I believe, just improves carry weight and no longer scales your damage. So unfortunately, this only matters for early game, and once you hit 100 strength, which is going to be the thing you're going to want to do, so you're going to be plus 5ing your strength every single level, assuming that you're using Blunt, or even Blade if you want to run it. You can run Blade on Orc, there's no reason not to. I think Blade is better. The bleed is better, the weakness to normal weapons is better. The extra tanking from the Blunt early on is decent. It's definitely not bad. It's only really good until you hit armor cap, and then it doesn't really help you at all. But I do think Orc has some decent things going for it. It also gives you access to Drain Attribute. There are other ways to get Drain Attribute, but apparently there's some broken things that can be done with Drain Attribute. The Orrery also gives you access to Drain Attribute, and that's just in base game now, so it's not really unique to Orc anymore. But for the differences, in Origin, there's Stronghold, which is Willpower plus 5, Personality plus 5, and then there is Orsinium, which is Intelligence plus 10. So of the two of them, I think Orsinium is better. Intelligence plus 10 is better than Willpower slash Personality, just because Personality is terrible. If it was Intelligence versus Willpower, I would say it's up to you, depending on what you want to run. So let's put Orc in high A tier. I think Orc's magic resist is really good. Compared to Nord, Orc actually has higher intelligence if you go with the one option, but it actually has much higher willpower. So even though its starting bonuses to skills doesn't give it like the extra restoration, it's not really hard to level restoration So Orc is a better like hybrid. It is slower than Nord, but it does have magic resist 25, which is massive. It can ramp its own physical damage early on, which is decent, until it hits 100 strength. And of course, it has a pretty good distribution for flexing into magic, which is arguably really strong in this game. Next we have Khajiit. So Khajiit's boosted skills: athletics plus 10, blade plus 10, hand-to-hand plus 15, acrobatics plus 15, light armor plus 10, security plus 10, and sneak plus 10. Of those, the sneak, light armor, blade, and athletics are quite good. Khajiit does have 40 base speed relative to Argonian and Wood Elf, which are arguably the other stealth classes. It's like 10 less speed. Argonian has the option of getting 50 base speed, but that doesn't really matter as much because if you're going for like a stealth assassin build with the dagger, this can be decent. The active skills are Eye of Fear, Demoralize level 25 or less for 30 seconds once per day. So Demoralize is actually a very powerful ability that forces an enemy who's affected, not including undead, you need turn undead for that, to run in fear from you even as you attack them. So if you cast this on something, you just win. If this connects, like if it doesn't get absorbed or resisted or whatever, so if you cast this on an enemy and it actually works, they will just run in fear and you can literally just kill them. It's essentially a win fight button once per day. That's actually pretty powerful. And even beyond level 25, from what I understand about Oblivion, if something is an illusion effect that is level 25, what will happen is if you are 95% spell effectiveness, meaning you're wearing armor and you cast it, things above level 25 won't be affected, but if you're wearing no clothing or robes, or just specifically no armor, and you cast it, and you have 100% spell effectiveness, it should affect them. So if that is the case, then very likely, if you cast this in robes or clothes, it should work on everything that could be affected by it. But if that's not the case, then still being able to be used on level 25 or lower is pretty strong, especially if you don't level up beyond 25. Next, we have Eye of Night. Night Eye for 30 seconds, can be used as much as you want. This is decent for just utility if you need to see in the dark. There's occasionally areas that are dark, but not really. So where should we place Khajiit? I think Khajiit is C tier. In terms of builds, I don't think like Stealth Blade is like the best thing. Stealth Archer can be decent, but Stealth Blade has like trouble popping off because you have to physically get up to something, and enemies tend to detect you unless you're really high sneak, high chameleon, or just straight up invisibility. But if you're running invisibility and chameleon, then it could be better. Their starting skills, Demoralize is nice, but it's not like build defining. Like you can only demoralize once per day. So if you can't wait an entire day after using your Demoralize because enemies are nearby or you're in a dungeon or something, you can really only use it like maybe 1 to 2 times in a dungeon. Whereas with other abilities and passives and base stats, you just always have base stats. Certain passives like magic resist, you just always have. So those are things that just really help you in master mode. Next, we have the final tanking race or general like physical combat race, the Red Guard. So Red Guard's origins, you can either get plus 10 strength or plus 10 personality. And of the two of those, plus 10 strength is drastically better. They have boosted skills in athletics, plus 15, blade plus 15, heavy armor plus 10, light armor plus 10, mercantile plus 10. So you can run heavy or light armor depending on your preference, and they're basically a fast blade user. They have base speed 40, but base athletics plus 15 is quite high. So that's a pretty good bonus to speed. They do have good strength and good endurance, and they have decent agility, but they do suffer in intelligence and willpower, both of which are 30. The option for 30 personality is the better of the two. I'd rather have 10 strength than, 10 personality, which is the weakest attribute. Their passives are Resist Disease 75 and Resist Poison 75, both of which are decent effects that are just nice for utility. Resisting Disease is just like a nice thing to have, but it's not like build defining. It's not going to win you fights for the most part. They also have an active once per day ability, Adrenaline Rush. Fortify Agility, Strength, Speed, and Endurance 50 points for 60 seconds, and also Fortify Health 25 points for 60 seconds. So you get a huge increase to all types of physical damage. So bow damage gets ramped if your agility is not 100. All physical damage with non-short sword dagger weapons gets ramped through the strength. You do get short sword dagger ramping through agility. You also get speed, which makes you move faster, and you get endurance, which gives you more max health, in addition to your health increasing. So Adrenaline Rush is pretty good throughout most of the playthrough. Once you hit endgame, it won't matter as much once your stats are capped. But I believe improving speed above 50 does continue to give you a speed increase. And I think improving endurance also gives you more health as well. It still should maintain some use case. I'm going to put Redguard in B tier. I think they're decent. The fact that you can be heavier light armor is nice depending on your build. They can also flex into other things because they kind of have almost like generalist stats outside of magic. Their magic stats could be better, but they're good at all like physical. They could flex into sneak. They could flex into heavier light armor, which is nice. And they also have like a bonus to mercantile, so you can maybe sell things for a little bit more earlier on. Next, we have everyone's favorite swimming lizard, the Argonian. So Argonians are pretty interesting in this game. They have very high speed with the right setup. So you can choose their Arnesia background for plus 10 speed and plus 10 agility, or you can go with their Thornmarsh background for plus 10 intelligence, plus 10 willpower. They're very interesting because they can flex into just raw speed and agility, or they can flex into casting. And their boosted skills are also very interesting. They have 15 athletics. 15 athletics at 50 base speed. Right out of the gate, you're very fast. So they're, I think, the fastest race with the Arnesia background. They have 15 security, which doesn't really matter because skeleton key exists, as does alteration. Mysticism plus 10 can be decent for like detect life, so you can get early detect life. Illusion is also really good for stealth builds because of chameleon effects and things like this. Alchemy 10, very nice for poison. Hand-to-hand 10 doesn't really matter. Blade 10. So they do have super high speed. They're good at blade. They have really good agility. So you can have an Argonian start with 50 agility, 50 speed, and also with 15 increased athletics. You're looking at a very fast lizard. The nice thing about moving fast is if you're a stealth build, especially a melee stealth build, like if you want to do like a dagger stealth build, high movement speed means faster sneaking. So you do not want to be sneaking slowly. The faster you can sneak, the better. They also have water breathing, which is just a nice utility. They have poison immunity, which is also pretty nice. Certain enemies will just randomly use poisons occasionally. It just gives you immunity versus that. And they also have 75% disease resist. I think Argonians are low A tier. I think they have enough in their kit to justify running them. You could easily run them as an assassin. I think their intended purpose is a dagger assassin or short sword duelist that runs poison and flexes into illusion. I think that's their main thing. They also have those other decent racial passives, you know, the water breathing and the poison immunity, that are just like neat to have. They don't really help you, but the main thing you're looking at is super fast assassin that has the stats to be an assassin and also has decent magic if you want it. So you can either do agility speed or you can do intelligence willpower. So they can kind of flex into either or, which is kind of nice because some of the other races, their origin choices are really not that relevant or valuable, but this is like a pretty huge one. So where does Wood Elf belong? Wood Elf has plus 15 alchemy, plus 10 alteration, plus 10 acrobatics, plus 10 light armor, plus 15 marksman, plus 15 sneak. So I think you kind of see where I'm going with this. It has the highest alchemy, marksman, and sneak. It has high speed. It has 50 agility and speed regardless of the origin. The origins are endurance plus 10 or personality plus 10. Endurance plus 10, which is Grotwood, is way better. Personality I regard as a useless stat. It has resist disease 75, which is decent. It has command creature level 5 for 60 seconds once per day, which is only useful in like super early game. But it has a few things going for it that I think a lot of people are overlooking. 15 base alchemy is insane. Alchemy is overpowered. A lot of people have argued alchemy is S tier. I usually put it in A tier, but if you want to min-max it to its fullest, it definitely is S tier. So if alchemy is one of the best abilities in the game, having the highest, I think the only race with alchemy plus 15, High Elf has alchemy plus 10. I think they do have the highest. Yeah, Breton has alchemy plus 10. So they have plus 5 more than other races. Now, plus 5 isn't the be-all, end-all, but it's nice. Marksman plus 15, Sneak plus 15. This is the Stealth Archer. I made one of these. It's been good. I intentionally didn't flex into Destruction to see how it would do just off of raw damage and doing the dagger switch in between shots. And it like 1 to 3 shots with 8 times multiplier. But with Poison and with Marksman, just Poison and Marksman, it's really good. There is one downside. If you run into undead like skeletons, zombies, ghosts, things that are poison immune, you want to dip into some destruction. And if you get 100 destruction, you can make a 7 magicka cost spell that just puts weakness to poison on target for 7 seconds. And that's all you need to give something 100% weakness to poison. Poison immune enemies can be damaged with poison doing this. So that's all it needs to be good in open combat. Alternatively, you can flex into destruction to just throw a debuff. But you have super fast speed, you have super high starting speed and agility, which matters for bow damage. You have the highest base marksman, you have the highest base sneak, you have the highest base alchemy of all the races. So if you want to run a poison stealth archer, this is the thing. I've been testing this in master mode. Just the poison plus stealth archer has been popping off. I added enchantments and destruction to it for late game, and that's just been able to openly duel things and just completely wreck. So it's pretty strong. Compared to other options as like a stealth archer, this has the highest bonuses and everything for what a stealth archer does. The other races in terms of agility, the only other races with 50 agility to start are Khajiit, which I don't think is very good, and Argonian with a specific origin. And Argonian with that specific origin, it is decent, but Argonian has no bonus to marksman at all. So starting off with plus 15, you end up hitting 50 marksman, like if you make marksman one of your major skills, really quickly, and essentially you just start popping off right at the gate. I was actually surprised at how high the damage was when I made this, because as soon as I equipped a bow, I was like 1 to 2 shotting rats. It was ridiculous. And then with the sneak damage, it was good. I haven't even tried 100% chameleon yet, but I'm sure with 100% chameleon, literally all you need is just shooting with the bow, switching to a dagger, and just 8-timesing things endlessly. And just that, this is like the optimal class for that, because it gets you all the stats you need right away. But it's also nice because stealth doesn't really cost you that many resources. All these other builds, like a lot of these magical builds, need like all these enchantments, they need all these custom spells, they have to level up all these things to crazy levels. This build, the stealth archer poison build, is really good because if you use magic to make everything weak to poison, it's super cheap. Poison is very easy to craft, and poison does not get reduced in master mode. The damage is exactly what it lists. So its damage is actually extremely potent. So if you just start throwing poisons on things, it just kills them over time, and it's so easy to do. And also, the paralyze chance on the bow, even at 15%, it's happening all the time. So once you hit Master Marksman, you're looking at 25% chance to paralyze. And the other thing that's stupid about the paralyze is when things are paralyzed, you can re-paralyze them. And I haven't tested this, but if you put weakness to magic, potentially the paralyze lasts longer. You just don't even need magicka if you're just running debuffs because they're so cheap at 100 destruction. So the mana pool on these things, 40 intelligence base, 30 willpower base. 40 intelligence is not bad. The races with the lowest intelligence are the tanks like Nord, Orc, and Redguard. Most other races have 40. So Imperial has 40, Khajiit has 40, Dark Elf has 40. The only races that can get to 50 are Argonian with a specific origin, and Breton and High Elf have innate 50. So base intelligence of 40 is actually kind of like moderate. It's not really on the higher end, but it's moderate. But you get all the bonuses and the skills that matter. This build has been going pretty well. It's pretty cheap. You don't really have to do too much. The only downside is if you don't flex into destruction for the weakness to poison. The enemies that are poison immune can be difficult to kill. So if you run into like a dread zombie, you're just not going to be able to kill it unless you have a weakness ramp. And weakness ramp is pretty cheap to do. You just get weakness to 100% on like a 7 to 10 second spell, hit an enemy with it, and then just start unloading poisons and damage into them. But I do think they are low S tier for the fact that they can easily hit like high stats right away. Like even just with my damage without poison or enchantments, it's actually pretty good in combat, surprisingly, at like level 20. So it's not bad. And the fact that you're so fast, like you just keep ramping agility and speed. You're so fast, nothing can catch you. So just by virtue of being insanely fast, you're just like unhittable. Now other classes can do this as well, but the fact that you have bonuses in, you know, some of the better things in the game, you can do poison nuke, you can do chaos nuke with the bow. The bow has built-in paralyze, which helps you crowd control. You can do chameleon 100%, and it just has the fastest path to getting to the highest bow damage the fastest. So it just out-competes the other races in that regard. I did run Thief on it, which probably seems weird, but Thief gets you 10 more agility and 10 more speed. And then if you choose agility and speed as your starting specializations, you start the game off with 65 agility and 65 speed, and also 60 luck. And the 60 luck does ramp all of your skills a little bit, aside from athletics and acrobatics. So your mercantile is a little bit better. Your sneak is a little bit better until it's level 100 and so on. Seems like Stealth Archer, it's still good. You shoot things from across the map, they don't see you. You can get multiple 8 times attacks in, especially with 100 Chameleon. You can just keep 8 timesing them until they're dead. You don't even need poison or magic to do that, and this is just the best class at doing that, so it's S tier. Alright, so definitely drop a comment as to if you agree or disagree with these placements and why. If you have a specific build that leverages the race's unique bonuses or passives, I would be interested in hearing about it. And that is it for this one. Thank you for checking this out, and I'll see you guys next one. Peace.